Hello everyone, my name is Eamon and today I'm going to talk about security analysis. The goal of the project was to choose 5 companies from 2 different industries, pick the best investment from each industry and compare the 2 best investments overall and decide which was best. The 2 industries that I chose were the alcoholic beverage industry and the tobacco industry. In alcoholic beverage it was Constellation Brands, Morrison Coors Brewing, Brown-Forman Corporation, Boston Beer Company and Craft Beer Alliance. In the tobacco industry it chose Universal Corporation, Lorillard Incorporation, Alliance One International, Karelia Tobacco Company and Vector Group. First of all I'm going to talk about the alcoholic beverage industry. Now here is the current ratio, which is liquidity ratio, and as you can see here Brown-Forman is the best, beating Constellation with a higher current ratio. The good thing about Brown-Forman here though is that it's actually trending in a better direction than Constellation. Constellation has actually went up in that previous year, but it looks very volatile over that 5-year period that we analysed, so we chose Brown-Forman there. Profit margin wise, we look here and see again that Brown-Forman is the best, very stable over the 5-year period. There's 4 other companies there that were also very stable, and Constellation had a really great increase over that first period, but overall we would choose Brown-Forman. PE ratio wise, now we see here that Craft Brew has a very high PE, and this is because it has a high expected future growth. Now it's a new company of 2008, so the market believes that the price of the stock is going to increase, so we'll give it this extra oomph almost from the marketplace. But as you can see again, Brown-Forman as an established company has a very steady PE ratio. EVA is the market given them making profit on top of the required return of their investors. As you can see here again, Brown-Forman really dominates the sector, ahead of, Constellation was one of the biggest competitors so far through the graphs, but as you can see here they really dominate Constellation and Morrison Coors, who are also one of the biggest competitors. Asset turnover wise, we actually have Boston Beer at the top, followed by Craft Brewery. Boston Beer is a new company, sort of started in 1980s, so maybe has a slightly better management position, a bit new forward thinking rather than sort of established work of Brown-Forman. But again, all 5 companies are fairly consistent, although you would like them to be above 1. Boston Beer is the one only above 1, so we'd like to see that increased from the 4 companies below. Return on assets, and this Brown-Forman again, despite being below Boston Beer in this case, it is trending in the right direction. So I mean, we would say that those 2 companies are light years ahead of the other 3 in the industry that we compared. So I mean, that this is comparable. So it all comes down to your equity multiplier, which is how much risk each company is taking. And as you can see here, they are fairly similar. Constellation has taken on a little bit more debt, but that's coming down over the past few years. They are very, very comparable because they're so close together. And so ROE wise, Brown-Forman, which ROE is probably the most important profitability ratio that we look at as investors, and we would say that Brown-Forman probably has the best ROE, just closely beating Boston Beer. So the investment we chose as best was Brown-Forman. They had the most appealing current ratio, profit margin, EVA, ROA and ROE. And Boston Beer is also a very good investment still, but overall we would choose Brown-Forman. Next we're going to talk about the tobacco industry. Now here we actually don't choose the very, very top level tobacco companies. We chose one slightly below the level. So here is the current ratio. Karelia is actually has a very high current ratio. I think this comes as sort of a sideways exit from actually a slightly bigger company that started a sort of new industry as Karelia Tobacco, and that's why the current ratio is very liquid and be able to get funds from their previous sort of owner company. They were also up there with Universal, but that too, they've seen a dive in their current ratio, so a bit less liquid over the previous year. Profit margin wise, again, where we actually see Lorillard, and you'll see that as the graphs continue, you'll see Lorillard really step out as the industry leader here over the next few slides. Profit margin, obviously working at a very high profit margin, just around about 25 average, and also very stable. which sort of sets it apart from Karelia, which is up there with them, but a little bit more unstable. PE ratio has the same problem as Craft Brewery in the previous one. Vector has a very high PE ratio. It's in its infancy as compared to its other competitors, that the market expects it to have high future growth. So you saw that go up in the first 2 years, and you saw the decrease over the next few years as the market has reacted, and the revenues and earnings have not been able to keep up with the high expectations of the market. But as you can see here again, Lorillard, of the other companies involved, very steady and also trending in the right direction. EVA wise is the big one for Lorillard. They really dominate the sector. Their EVA goes up over 1500, and you know, all the other companies that we analyse are all around about 0. So that's really separated Lorillard because of staggering profits on top of the required return from their investors. Asset turnover again, you see Lorillard dominate that, and that's something that's almost bizarre, that they have a high profit, the highest profit margin out of the industry, and the also highest asset turnover. That doesn't happen very often. But again, you can see all the companies are fairly stable over that 5-year period. We have 3 above 1, which is promising. Again, Vector and Aprilia are sort of newer companies, so wouldn't be maybe struggle with the asset turnover management part. But these 3 sort of more established companies have obviously good management processes and able to have a high asset turnover. ROA here. Now the problem we had with the companies I chose was they had a limited information on equity multiplier, so how much debt the companies were taking on. So we chose here to analyse the ROA part of it, and that's about as far as we could go, because without the equity multiplier we couldn't really calculate ROE. But as you can see here again, Lorillard has by far and away the most attractive ROA. It's getting the most income. It's getting the most income from its income. So that's from its asset story. So it's a really industry leader there. And unfortunately, these graphs don't pay much dividend. But so we move on. We say which investment was best in the tobacco industry. We say Lorillard had the most promising profit margin, PE ratio, EVA, asset turnover, and ROA. And that again makes it a very appealing investment opportunity. Overall, the best investment opportunity would pick Lorillard. It has very similar ratios to the leader in the alcoholic beverage industry. Although it is less liquid, its EVA dominates the sector so impressively, especially which is what separates it from Brown-Forman. Both companies are great investments, but Lorillard would be the one I choose. Thank you.